Good evening, everyone. How are you? I just came in. It's very cold outside, so I'm going to warm up for just a moment. I have some interesting things that I think that if you and I can share together, we can keep building on healing, reclusing, healthcare, what it is, what it isn't, medical freedom. And, is the medical industry becoming the king? I mean, the end all authority? I sure hope not. I know that many of you are either completely aware, and that's why you're here with me, or you're saying, hey, I'm willing to learn. I'm going to take my jacket off here because I just got in the door and I've been thinking about this. It's Minnesota. I got the dogs out and I've got a shirt that I got at the, it's called the Unique Thrift Shop in St. Paul on Rice Street. And I actually have gotten quite a few things there. But I am sprouting dreadlocks. I cut mine off. They were down to the end of my back. And this is my fourth set. You're probably intrigued a little bit, maybe just a tiny bit. I have an image, my thumbnail on my YouTube video is the Great Queen in the movie Snow White. Let me get my phone because this has got to be a part of it too. I'll be right back. Okay. My phone. I'll turn the volume down so it won't interrupt us. Do you notice what you see here? You see it's a reflective surface, right? Probably since the late 1960s, I became aware, because you need to remember, became aware of what scrying is, S-C-R-Y. You need to remember my grandmother lost her firstborn son and my mother lost her firstborn son, and I have now just 2 weeks over a year ago lost my firstborn son. I'm a hot mess. I don't look like myself. I don't sound like myself. I don't feel like myself. I'm certainly not laying here, boozing it up all day long. And, no offense to anybody else who does when they go through this, because it's the worst pain in the world. But I got up and today I just blasted through cleaning and laundry and a couple of phone calls. And I made some 3-ingredient flatbread that I put a recipe from another great YouTuber whose recipe I found with yam and flour and some salt. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. I'll make some of that. The dogs and I had some. But women have been accused of being witches, which is not even a real thing, to be a witch. What's going on in the world right now is that you are being so remote controlled that even as I stepped out to take the dogs outside for a little while, I mean, it just blew up with ambulances going by, and loud screeching sirens. I had Faya, who's 160, he used to be 185-pound Rottweiler, by my side, taking him out to go to the bathroom and relieve himself. And we both just, tilted up our chin and let out a phenomenal howl. It was really, really satisfying to my spirit. So because I grew up aware that we're not witches, and that was a derogatory name, and still for a time in my life, I said, well, I'm a witch, And so I can understand other people who go through that phase. I don't identify that way now, and I don't see a lot of people who do identify as a witch. Like, let me show you this book over here. I've got a really cool book that I was showing to my son's partner, and it's called The Garden Witch's Herbal. She is Ellen Dugan. What a fabulous writer. Oh my goodness. If you want to, plants are my thing. I love plants. I have an amazing green thumb. But it took me half my life to really understand how to move with plants on a better level, like so I do now. But I dream of having a garden and an herbal garden, and I turn to her. She's really phenomenal. So I was actually reading a couple chapters of her book just the other day. And she, in the book anyway, identifies as a witch. And I thought, well, I'm not going to, think of her any less because that's how she identifies, looking at my poor, pathetic hair. Um, so if I were to, like with Brian, who's one of my testimonials with psoriasis, I asked to lay my hands on Brian. Brian's a pastor, and his hands were just red and peeling, and 85% of his body was just a hot mess. That's what happens in life. I mean, sometimes we're a hot mess, right? I imagine there's probably some people who said, "Well, I know I've heard about Shaman." I go by Shaman, and my sign outside said Shaman. Shaman, she's been, she gives people messages from the dead, and she's medically intuitive, and she must work with the devil. And two pastors' wives, believe it or not, said horrible things when here I was working for this, very small amount of money and working very hard on working very righteously and helpfully with people, respectfully, with a great deal of integrity. And I thought, I just can't imagine until my client, Carol Hongisto, whose husband formerly owned Hongisto's on Highway 33, which is a big tractor place that was multi-generational business in town and respected. And she came and she said, I cringe, but I want to tell you this. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. So now, after coming from Santa Cruz and leaving Santa Cruz, my home at age 42, I was like, wow, I have to be aware that other people might be predisposed to thinking different ways. Oh, geez, that kind of puts a different spin on things, doesn't it? Okay, so I knew about scrying, and I knew about automatic writings, and I knew about omens, and I knew about auras. And so I don't think we use the word chakras because I wasn't around anyone who was teaching Ayurveda. But my grandmother was into what she called parapsychology. She was good friends with Dr. Ian Stevenson, University of Virginia, NDEs, near-death experiences. I am an MK Ultra experiment. I could not speak about that for most of my life without just crying a bucket of tears. It's something that you don't realize until even later in life, how programmed and handled that you were. It also will either crack you open and make you exceptionally intelligent, which it's done in my case. I don't think I would have been as awake and open and as hungry to find the truth, but for some of the experiences and trauma that's happened to me. So one of the things, in the 60s and 70s is that when someone were to speak about scrying, and my grandmother had all kinds of friends that were into all kinds of different things, and most of them were, really upright, highly intelligent, phenomenal people like Dr. Ian Stevenson and Zechariah Sitchin, and who was deciphering the tablets and speaking about the Anunnaki, that we call them the Naki. And so Enki and Enlil and things like that, things that David Icke is talking about. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his name. In many recent years, Gaia is having shows about things like that. So typically, scrying would be done with a crystal ball. And so there were stores that sold a little crystal ball. It might not be crystal, it might just be a clear glass. But really, scrying is anything that is reflective. So women used to go to the waters. That's why I have so many times kind of provoked and prodded a little bit with Sister Kim and Christina and others in my environment and said, whoops, look at what I just did to my camera. Holy moly. I was just trying to wipe it off. Okay, maybe it's the light. Maybe it's not even the camera. I'll turn it this way. Maybe it's just me being in front of the camera. Meaning that light, somehow I did something. Okay, there we go. All right, so you go to a body of water, Cold Mother, Lake Superior, Cold Mother, Warm Mother, Pacific Ocean, all the creeks, estuaries, tributaries, muddy creeks, and everything else are bodies of water. And long before, like with Cold Mother here at Lake Superior, we now have PCBs and DDT and all sorts of other 3-letter chemical pollutants inside of her. And that changes her, okay? And so it changes the spirit of the lake and the spirits who live around her, like Wendigo, okay? And so Wendigo comes when there are storms, and I hear Wendigo, and I respect Wendigo, and I mess with Wendigo. So there are times when I need to commune with mother of some sort because my mother and I are not communing. Or, like you may feel like I just need to go to the ocean. I just need a vacation. I need to go to the beach. I just need to. Well, in our case, my son Zawa and I used to walk half a block down the street because we lived on Cliff Street, 321 Cliff Street and 325 Cliff Street, and we would walk right down the street. We were at what was on the Lost Boys called Santa Carla, which was the beach and boardwalk. And I had the long dresses and the combat boots and very long, beautiful hair and a little bit of red lipstick back in the day. I don't do that now. But there was a time period where that's kind of like who we were. We were always at the farmer's market on Wednesday with our baskets with the big handle and our long dresses and our little children running around and drum circles going on. And, I love African culture. And I mean, I found this and I thought, what a great deal, because it's, it's obviously handmade. I think it was like $5, and I took it home and washed it, and I ironed it today and put it on, and I'm like, it's perfect fit. It's great. It's comfortable. And instead of seeing things as culturally appropriating, I support artists that make things like this. I performed African dance, Congolese African dance. I took live African dance classes with Mbayero and workshops with Babatunde Olatunji, and I became a certified Kemetic yoga instructor. I love African culture. I love Filipino culture. I love Korean culture. Jizu was our housemate on King Street in Santa Cruz, and I got exposed to a lot of really cool Korean culture and dishes, and so did Zawa. And he loved, one of his favorite things to do was to go to Korean barbecue. So with that being said, to scry is to look into, to look for answers, to perceive, to connect, to commune with, okay? Greetings, Kim, good to see you. I have a weird situation with the light here, which I think I'm going to try to move just because it's kind of bothering me. See if I can make it better. I think that will be a lot better. Yeah, that's much better. If you look at your phone, it's a scrying instrument. Most of scrying instruments were made out of either clear or black obsidian. Black obsidian was kind of considered to be the go-to for scrying. So if you look at the screen, you'll see it is a scrying. If I go like this, you can see I'm reflecting to you my computer screen right now that I'm live streaming on, right? This is a scrying. So that's why I said scry now, cry later. Okay? So stay with me for a minute because I'm going to finish explaining this. You were already introduced to scrying long before they told you about the bad witches and the terrible people by introducing you to the movie Snow White, and before that, the tale and the books of Snow White, as they were told by Grimm's, which were far different. And then in more modern times, we have other Snow White movies. I think there's Snow White and the Huntsman and different things like that, which I've never seen. Maybe you have. The reason that we talk about scrying, and we now say only witches do that, and people that want to come out and say they're a witch, like beautiful, beautiful Ellen in the book that I showed you that, I've had on my shelf for quite a long time. I handed it to Christina to do a little reading. And Ellen Dugan, who calls herself a witch, or did during the time of the book, is someone that I turn to for beautiful nature-based gardening ideas and her knowledge of plants and garden layouts and things like that. And so Frequently in a garden, you will find, a statue. You might find a little fountain. You might find like an old antique chair, little quirky things that Ellen talks about in her Garden Witches Herbal. She's got several books, but she makes it so fun. She makes it, like, how do you make it your own space where other people go, hey, that's really kind of cool? She tells you like the right plants to plant and how to know if your space has, full sun or is a south facing space or a west, things that I didn't know. So I was like, I really like turning to Ellen. But women used to always have moving water because the water was the water element, right? And the earth element was the soil in the garden. And so a lot of times women would put a little reflective surface just somewhere quirky in the garden where most people wouldn't even notice it, but it was a scrying instrument. It was a reflective instrument. Now I'm going to kind of switch over for a moment. When my child, who died at 24, 1 year and 2 weeks ago, so a year ago, when we were at the home that I sold, that we had that home since August 23rd of 2002 until July 31st of 2020. We had the house 18 years. I would notice that he would get high and then he would sit there and he would just look into the mirror, but he wouldn't just look at himself, not like someone who's scrying all the time, which is what this is. It's a form of what people call witchcraft at its worst. This cell, this cell. It's written up in prophecy. It really is. And I've been telling people this for a really, really long time since these things have come out. I've been mentioning this. It has the black, right? So my son would sit there and I would watch him because eventually he'd be like, okay, mom's not going to kind of, just be negative on me the whole time and stuff like that and trip on me. I was just damn happy to know he was home and he was safe and he was alive. And I had that Narcan over there in the cupboard in the linen closet if I needed to go grab it. And so eventually, after I took the lock off the bathroom door and we went through all different kinds of transitions, I would just watch in fascination if he would just sit. And it came to me, he was looking for his inner child. He was looking for his inner child. Our society has so robbed us. They've so traumatized with the reaction to the vaccine as a child. Like he arched his back and started just screaming and then screamed and screamed and screamed and got kind of red in the face. And then he heated up and then he was sleeping and sleeping like crazy. I later learned that that was a sign of an ischemic attack, meaning a mini stroke. I later learned how this was happening to more of our children than not. And I blamed myself for not saying, no, damn it. I said no vaccines in 1995. Lori Dote had told me no vaccines. I said no vaccines. My son's father was around for almost the first year, almost 18 months, or the first year maybe, because he came to the birthday party. And he's like, oh, you're going to get them all fucked up already and everything. Like I was like, oh my God, right? You're afraid. You don't want to do the wrong thing. And, you've just had a baby and you're a little bit more emotional. And I was thinking, oh my God, I cannot possibly go back to work in 3 months. So now that my child is not here on earth, I sat over in this chair today. I was moving everything around and I sat over in that chair after I did the laundry and I made the flatbread and I did all the dishes and I washed the rolling pin and cleaned up all the flour and I mopped the entire floor, which is huge here. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this video tonight about scrying. I'm going to also talk about how my son was scrying in the mirror. And then I went back to the house before I sold the house and I looked and I just stood there like he did in the bathroom. And I just looked into the mirror, asking for a glimpse to see what he saw. I'm seeing young women Stare at this thing, into this scrying device. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? The inner critic and the inner judge that just eats away like the Pac-Man at the beautiful inner child that is innocent and spirit-filled and full of life force energy is robbed from each and every one of us. It's been robbed from me numerous times, or I would be a gorgeous, extremely youthful, passionate, apron on mama, doing my thing, doing my life. But I've been robbed. I've been traumatized. I'm traumatized by knowing that ones and ones, individuals in the world honestly believe they have health care, they have food, they have jobs, they have an economy. People are contacting me and they want universal basic income. They're talking about groups getting together and looking at studies about what they should do to assemble, to have communities in suit and tie with the red tie, right? We got to get real. Okay, we got to get real. So the thing about going to the water that I've mentioned many times is if the only thing you know when you go to a body of water is to throw stones into her, skip stones, that's all we think about because it's all we've heard. We parrot it. Yeah, let's go throw rocks. We stand over there and we throw rocks and okay, now what? We don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't know how to enjoy a quiet environment. We don't know how to come together and communicate. We don't know how to heal. We don't know how to grow and take care of food. Roger Reinert, who's now running the deck in Duluth, I've asked him to have a conversation 3 or 4 times. Well, we're only going to have $1 million. It takes $1.8 million to run the deck for the next 12 months. What are we going to do? I'm thinking, hey, people eat. It's a pretty big space for growing food. I think I have some pretty damn good viable ideas for that space. I'm willing to come sit down. And again, I'm not getting paid to have my time to make the phone call. Hey, Roger, I'm available. Hey, Roger, this is Shaman. Give me a call. Hey, CADT, this is Shaman, Zawa's mom. Zawa's mama. I would like to come give a talk about the implications of thyroid imbalance and addiction. Oh, okay. We'll do that another time. Hi, is this AIM, the American Indian Movement? Hi, yeah, I met you guys over in the park over here, and I offered to do a talk. I've lost my child to opiates and opioids, and I'd really like to do a discussion about things we can do to strengthen the people. Oh, okay, well, we'll have to have you do that sometime. We'll have to have a talk. Scry now, cry later. Scry now, cry later. Let me share with you, in the event that you do not know, the word scry comes from other words. Scry is the word right now. Descry, right? To describe. The word scry comes from and is a part of the word describe. Our living waters, 70 to 80% of our body is mineralized, trace element water. So you see, when you die, an opiate or opioid death, you get hypoxia. Your brain doesn't have enough circulating oxygen. The brain starts to get inflammation, it gets trapped up and it triggers, and typically in about 3 minutes you die. Typically. One of your organs bursts, the body can't do its job, and the body dies. The body dies. Did you hear that? The body dies. So when these ambulances that are running around with Floodwood and this one and that one and Beacon, which I've never seen before in my life, and Mayo Clinic, and I've never seen so many different ambulances in my life floating around Duluth, Minnesota, are picking up people right and left. That's why tonight we just fire and I stood out on the street on 4th Street and I was just like, oh! Let my throat chakra wide open. We howled together. I'm glad they didn't start right now. But outside on the street, where no one really cares or is paying attention that I'm aware of, let it rip. Yeah. Now, I would have been horrified to be me when I was about 20 years old, but I'm 59, and I want to be real. I want to be real, real, real. I've become the Velveteen Rabbit. How things become real is because I've been traumatized. I've been through things. I've given birth. I've now lost a child 24 years later. I watched my son scry in the mirror. I learned about scrying as a little girl. I tried scrying with a little clear glass ball. Never really did anything for me. But then later, I did it in the mirror. Now tell me, I know you've done it too. You walk over to the mirror, whether you're a teenager especially. You look into the mirror and you think to yourself, yeah, I'm kind of looking at myself and, I want to look okay when I go outside, and there's so much peer pressure when you're a teenager. But when you first go do cannabis or you do psilocybe, which are magic mushrooms, you do MDMA, or you do something like that that's an entheogen, that's an empath increasing type of a substance, something hopefully non-chemical. And you look in the mirror, you start to see beyond just the reflect ion. You start to see way beyond that. This is something I learned in 1993 at a rave in San Francisco that Terrence McKenna gave. He's kind of considered the shaman of psilocybe, of magic mushrooms. And it was in a warehouse, industrial warehouse area, late, into the early morning hours. And we had done some psilocybe. And I always would wear like a bodysuit with a clear, not clear, but a almost like a see-through kind of a super long dress with lots of colors, flowers or something, or leaves on it, with a bodysuit underneath. And I would just, just kind of experiencing psilocybe and listening to what Terrence had to say, because he was just, at the mic and just delivering out what the mycelium brought him to give to us. It was something that changed my life. Okay. So if we used to scry hundreds and hundreds and certainly thousands of years ago, we did. With the pristine waters, typically we weren't running out and buying a crystal ball or buying a piece of black obsidian. We didn't have a cell that's going to tell us what to do with the fuckery health app. No, thank you. How do you know that as you're staring at this thing all the time, I mean, you can't even walk outside on what we consider a nice, or you call it a gorgeous, or a crappy or an ugly day, right? You describe the weather with your feelings like you do an individual, don't you? The we out there, the weather. You walk out and what do you see? But you see people constantly doing this. They're just tuned in to the scrying device. Scry now, cry later. Scrying comes from the word describe. Describe is also the scribe. The scribe, as we learned in Kemetic Yoga, I became a certified Kemetic Yoga teacher, 2015. The scribe is the one who writes down the history. The scribe is the one who writes down the events. Okay? To describe, to scry. These cell devices are scrying devices. From the first time I saw the black screen, I knew that. They're capable, and they're becoming more and more capable of doing what you can't even really conceptualize. You feel me? Okay. Let's see. I gotta get my glasses. I did a reading for myself, and I was going night before last, and it was very, very, I believe it's very, very accurate and very positive about what I need to do. And the message that I got that I'm supposed to do is that I am supposed to really focus on my healing right now. I'm supposed to really enjoy having some downtime and some quiet because I was way, way, way too depleted and traumatized and grief sick. And so, although I put together a course called Crucial Keys to Unlocking Disease to give beautiful insights, a slight bit of history, a good amount of overstanding and understanding about mind body, I'm now living an example I've never ever had myself or any client be in the state of degeneration that I was in about 9-10 months ago. I'm glad I'm not there right now. I'm really, really thankful that I'm not there right now, but I'm still not hearing my voice fully. I still don't have my full energy. I'm still not really super flexible. I've still got some crepey skin, which I did not have before. A lot of just the body goes into rapid and premature aging. That's what degeneration is, right? If you see someone and they're 15 or 16 or they're 8, 9, or 10, and you see these wheat patches on their skin, so they're losing pigmentation, right? The wheat is literally eating it. and you see the dark circles on them, right? Like I have. I'm sure I still have quite a bit. But on a day-by-day basis, it's getting better. Better and better. So let me see what you wrote here. I'm sorry. Stan the man. Peace and love. Kim, I was hoping that how I timed this tonight had to do, with you guys coming in and it being comfortable and everything like that. So I'm glad to hear that. You could see that I've got like 2 dreadlocks that, it's kind of like a little knotty on the end here, little knotty knots. And then I've got a whole heap in here. I shouldn't even show you because a lot of people will be like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. But, it's all pushed down. So keep that in mind, but yeah, it's like, it's a lot. It's a lot to feel like you look really ugly for a limited period of time and that you're missing your child. I sat in the chair over there today and it was like I just started crying. I just started weeping. I was looking at the pictures of my son and I was just thinking, couldn't you just walk in the door one more time and say, "Hi Mom, I'm home. I love you, Mom." And we put our arms around each other like we did that last night, October 28th. Okay. So, I know I got the hat on. I don't know if you guys have any questions. You probably don't. So, I'm just going to say so long. I wanted to keep this under half an hour and not keep everybody like, "Ooh, that was long-winded." So, you just, let's check my glasses off. Let's see here. Yeah, I just want to touch them. I just want to hear them again. I just want to be able to say anything that was left unfinished, and it was like, well, you'll be here tomorrow, Mom. We're going to go to Metro PCS at the mall and get the phone turned on. All this was pre-COVID. So it's really difficult because, like I said, I feel alone. I feel like my son is always around me. I've had confirmation on many levels, including my reading the other night, that he's, coming back. I do believe in birth, death, and rebirth. I do believe also that I have companions that are making their way to me as I'm also rehabilitating, regenerating, rejuvenating myself. So today it was really cathartic in a way, just to mop and make food and just kind of be home and not get in the car and go anywhere, just not go anywhere. Thank you guys for joining me. And I really appreciate the love and the support, manners and respect. I love you so much. Today I had fleeting thoughts of just going, that's it. I'm just going to move to Jamaica. I know there are 2-bedroom brand new homes with lots of little room on the side. They're brand new on the safe side of the island to grow in a really nice sized garden. I'm like, that's it. I'm just going to call Kim. Maybe Russell will stay here for a little bit longer and we can easily share the $4.95 a month. And let's just go live life where we want to go live it, where it's nice and warm, and just grow our food, put together a little product line. And, every 6 months we have to fly in and out of Jamaica because we're not citizens, but unless I married someone who would want to marry me, I don't know. Maybe lots of people, I don't know. But I was thinking about that today. That was kind of my daydream as I was mopping this huge, huge floor. I washed all the dog bedding and I gave all the plants like a bunch of TLC love, and I moved the chair. And my home isn't fancy. It's very modest. So thank you guys. Have a great night.